Hi guys, Roxy is a nerd here. So with the Netflix Death Note coming out tomorrow, I thought I would post an early review for all of those avid anime fans or people who are interested in knowing more about it. Yes, I got to see it in advance at San Diego Comic-Con, which was crazy. It took a lot of effort, a lot of failed raffles, a lot of begging and crying, waiting at the standby line, and finally getting in my cosplay and getting front row seats. So that was great. Now for this review, I know some people don't want spoilers, so I'm gonna have two sections. The first section is just gonna be kind of my general thoughts and ideas that I had prior to seeing the movie, actually, that all rang true about the casting decisions, the director, the script, referencing the trailer. I'm gonna talk about that. Then I'm going to put a huge spoiler warning. You can make a decision. You can, like and subscribe and come back tomorrow after watching the movie or whenever you watch the movie. Or if you're interested in seeing the spoilers, you're such an avid fan you don't want to watch the new one, or you just don't care about things getting spoiled, you can keep watching. Since I have a lot to say, I'm going to be referencing my handy dandy Death Note. This is the one they gave me, and I don't really like it that much, so I'm gonna use my homemade handy dandy Death Note to reference things. Let's go! So right off the bat, I'm going to let you know the vibe of how I felt about this movie. All in all, it seemed like a very average movie, trying to view it from the standpoint of someone who doesn't know the original source material. Now looking at the original source material, it seems a lot weaker. Made a lot of choices that weren't for the better, where they could have used that source material. But all of these preconceived notions I have did ring true. So first off, with casting, many people state that looks don't matter as long as they can portray the character and they have good acting skills, which yes, I do agree with. And for all of the people that say that, don't worry, I'll get to you. But for now, we're just looking at looks, because when casting, the casting directors do look at looks. Looks are played into things, and I do think they are important. This guy, who I'm gonna link below, does a really amazing job of explaining it better than I could, so you should check that out. He talks about how Nat Wolff for light doesn't seem like he could manipulate people with his looks, or like he's crazy attractive, just kind of boy next doorsy. And then also with Margaret, same sort of thing. She seems very girl next door. Keith just seems a little too attractive, not like the frumpy, pale, pasty sort of guy that he should be. But ultimately, I think they had an opportunity to be more clever with how they cast these characters. Now, yes, it is an American version, so as such, it makes sense that not everybody's gonna be Asian, and whitewashing is a big issue, but that's not the biggest issue I had with this film. That being said, they could have been bold and made a bold choice. Casting an Asian American lead could have been a lot more notable. You could have kept his name Light Yagami and done a little shout out to the original fans by doing this instead of Light whatever I'm gonna call it. At least his name was still Light. Also, it would have been very easy to cast a blue-eyed, blonde-haired girl, and then you could have kept her as an American model instead of the weird cheerleader in school thing she was. Could have had an AMWF on your hands. You can look up that acronym if you want, and that's a very rare sight in films. But casting a crazy, sexy, interracial couple would have given people something to talk about. I know there are naysayers on casting Asians in leads and how people worry about money and views and blah blah blah. Things are shifting, man. A good example is two of the most popular characters in The Walking Dead, Maggie and Glenn. They're great. Missed opportunity in my opinion. Also, Elle just made me go. Okay. Now, I'm all for casting a sexy black man like Keith, but Elle seems like the least suitable character look-wise for the situation. He's creepy, pale, slouchy, frumpy, like dark bags under his eyes. A style that you're already right off the bat giving up on. And many people love this series solely for that character, so I'm just thinking with all of these characters, why fix something that's not broken? Why not go with it in a clever way? But I digress. You could have done a little nod to the source material and made him a mix of many races like he was defined as, and he also grew up in the UK, so, you know, maybe be clever and make him British. You could be like, oh, I see what you did there. But no. Willem Dafoe as Ryuk, we're done here. I'm so happy. This makes me so happy. He can do the creepy, he looks creepy, he sounds creepy. Did a great job. My only complaint, there was not enough of him in the movie, and he didn't show up to the pre-screening, so I didn't get to see him in person. Alright, so everybody who tuned out on my rant about how people look, you can tune in now because we're gonna talk about acting style. Looking at the past of who Nat Wolff is, he's from the frickin' Disney's Naked Brother band, and he was in The Fault in Our Stars and Paper Towns. Don't get me wrong, I love those two movies and love him in those movies, but he has a very certain style to all his characters. He's the nerdy, awkward, funny comedic, friendly guy in all of them. And guess what? He's still that character again in the movie. Now, not to fault him fully. Funny pun, get it? Fault in their stars. Okay, bad puns, let's move on. The script didn't give him much room to be anything else, and that's probably the decision they had made on the character when they cast him. Margaret, who's Misa/Mia in this, also hadn't been in any roles like this, and just didn't seem very Mia-like. Misa-like. With the spoilers later, you'll learn they did do some interesting stuff with her character. People have talked up Keith's ability to me, and I was interested to see how he portrayed this character, but I don't think it translated well, and I appreciated that he put the most effort into trying to be like the original source material, but his character was not written as that L, and he almost seemed too anime in comparison to everyone else, and it was just kind of weird. So moving past casting, we're getting into script. Now let's look who wrote the script. A notable piece they did was the not so fantastic flop of the Fantastic Four. Yeah. And checking out the rest of the script credit, I'm not very impressed. And I was worried, and rightfully so, that it would fall into the issues that previous anime adaptations have had of trying to cram too much of a big story into a movie and underdeveloping too many characters, which it did, and I think they could have done a better job by turning this into a show instead of a movie, but c'est la vie, it happened. Now the director, looking at his credits, he's done a lot of horror movies. This is not sticking to what we love about Death Note and what makes it more interesting of a movie, which is the psychological thriller side of things. It's not supposed to be a horror movie, but he did make it more of a horror movie with horror movie shots and elements, and kind of the little bit of funny scenes mixed in there. In the end, I'm okay with Americanization. That's not my problem. My problem is it hasn't been done the right way, and it's just a disappointment to anime fans, and I do hope that people have a different opinion of this movie than I do, because I would love to engage people in anime and have people appreciate it and bring in new anime fans. I know I at least enjoyed it. I didn't straight up hate it, I just thought it was very average, and compared to the original source, it wasn't comparable. It was well shot, so there's that for you guys to look forward to. For people who love the original, you will see something different, and there's some very different plot points that were kind of interesting to see happen. So there you go. So now that we've gotten through that, like, save, subscribe to this video, and all of you people who don't want the spoilers, come back later. I'm giving you the spoiler alert. Giving you time right now. So if you don't want those spoilers, get out of here, because we're going into it. Alright, you've been warned. Starting on a positive note, it did have some gorgeous shots. There's some cool side tilts and pans. There's this really cool close-up creepy eye shot I loved, the whole Ferris wheel falling in slow motion, and somebody dying. I'm gonna say who, so you might want to fast forward a little if you don't want to know a death, but Mia/Misa falls to her death into like this bed of flowers, there's sparks flying. It looks great. So kudos to the stylistic look of it. Now after that though, we have to look again at characters, and the characters were weak. Just straight out weak, poorly written, and comparing them to the source character material, they made a lot of choices that weakened them unnecessarily so, and I don't know why they did it. I think the character choice of Light and how they portray him killed the whole psychological thriller aspect of the film and turned it into a pure teen thriller movie. By making it this, you dulled the uniqueness of the original story and made the film average. So let's look at Light's character. He's kind of your average everyday teen. He gets scared really easily, doesn't know if he wants to kill people, doesn't want to do wrong. Throughout the entire movie, he doesn't really have much character development or advancement, except for there's this moment, like this brilliant moment where he saves himself by using the Death Note, and it just didn't really fit the intelligence level of his character as we previously saw him. An example of this would be when he messed up, and there's a scene from the original as well that they changed up a bit, where he's being followed by an agent, and instead of being smart about it and finding a way to continue his killings and discourage attention from him, he just gets scared and stops killing people, which is not the smartest thing to do when somebody suspects you. Why would he tell some girl who just started talking to him about the Death Note right off the bat? Yeah, he tells Mia just right away, like, look, I have this Death Note, isn't it cool? Just again, stupid average teenager trying to impress a girl out of nowhere, but just makes him come across as dumb. But when he's face to face with Elle and Elle says he suspects him, instead of trying to hide it, he just straight out is like, yeah, what you gonna do about it? Which ruins the suspense for the rest of the movie, kind of removes the cat and mouse game style of we're both smart and trying to figure things out from the original, and again, makes him look like he's not that smart of a guy. He's not the honor student who's really intelligent and working his way through things. He ended up being a generic Nat Wolff styled everyday average character with some good jokes in there. Now Keith seemed like he was going for the original source material Elle, and I did appreciate that. He was trying to mimic those vocal tones, kind of monotone, cool and collected, but against everything else, it seemed a little too anime and weird and didn't play at times. And what was disappointing is his character is supposed to be this cool, calm, collected agent, but then he does have a big character shift that doesn't really make sense to me, where when Light accidentally kills Watari and Elle thinks he did it on purpose, he goes crazy and just suddenly, consequences be damned, tries to kill Light by any means necessary without using his brain, just pure anger. Now Watari and Elle had some cool, interesting dynamics, so I liked that, and adding the whole Watari as a turning point was interesting, but they put a lot more attention on Watari's character than the original anime and manga, and I don't think it necessarily helped things, because you just add another character who you don't have time to fully develop and doesn't get the full attention he needs. Now looking at the Misa character, I actually think she ended up being the smartest out of everyone and the most interesting, so it was a cool, like, female power vibe moment, but unfortunately I think she was the weakest acting skill level wise. You know, her character has some of the girliness, but she's more manipulative than everyone else, and she ended up kind of being the villain to a degree of this movie. Now with Ryuk, he was great. He's very horror movie, shadows, darkness. They kind of led you towards thinking he was gonna be the villain, and then the whole plot twist is that Mia is really the villain, so that was interesting. Now the whole love element between Misa and Light was forced fast. They're madly in love with each other without the proper development. They didn't have time to develop that relationship. Would have been better off to keep the kind of fake manipulative love that's in the original. L. It's disappointing that this strong, smart, aging character just suddenly gets kind of stupid and reveals his cards all over the place and goes crazy and loses all his training and smarts to just go on a rampage and trying to kill L. Okay, so moving on beyond the characters, I want to just point out a few more little interesting things about the movie. There were some cute, funny jokes thrown in there. There's one in particular that I didn't think was funny and was just kind of random and poorly done, but some people liked that I'm gonna mention, where Elle is about to shoot Light, and this guy from a restaurant walks out to throw trash away and sees them, and Elle says, "This is Kira, I'm trying to capture him," and the guy smacks Elle over the head to knock him out and says something along the lines of like, "My lord Kira." First, why would this random guy believe two random teenagers in a shootout that one of them is Kira? And if anything, if he's gonna hit the guy with the gun, it was because he doesn't want anybody killing anyone. So I don't really get the logic behind that, but okay, cute, funny. My lord Kira, hahaha. Another point is I originally had an issue with them using the word Kira in the trailer because it's no longer based in its Japanese roots, but they did a good job of explaining where the name Kira came from. It had to do with like Latin, and then they also mentioned the Japanese killer reference and even said I can lead them off the trail of where I'm from. So they did a good job of explaining why they used Kira. Some of the death scenes to me felt a little cheesy and forced. Now it was very gory and supposed to be kind of like shock factory, but I think it lost some of that with the cheesiness factor, and it's kind of jarring in how the scenes were cut and how the special effects look. I wasn't a fan, but some people might like that gore aspect. Also, I did like that there was a little more development in the relationship between Light and his father. It felt a little more realistic, their bond, because in the original anime, you know, Light is losing his humanity and he's willing to kill his father in the end. This character doesn't really this Light doesn't have much character development, but he's always, you know, loves his family, doesn't want to do wrong, and it's interesting when his father discovers that Light is Kira. The ending. The cliffhanger ending. Not a fan of this. So Elle has figured out the whole Death Note situation, which felt a little random to me too, and he's given a piece of the Death Note where he can choose to kill Light. And the cliffhanger is you don't know if he chooses to kill him or not. So the reason I think the suspense is lost in this cliffhanger is we already know Elle is willing to kill Light, shoot him, run him over, whatever, consequences be damned, to get revenge for Watari. So yeah, he's gonna write his name down in the Death Note, if anything, but the cliffhanger, we don't really know, and I think it was kind of, again, forced and thrown in there for the opportunity to make money off of another movie, I guess. Which I'm kind of hoping doesn't happen, but... So that's that. That's my thoughts on Death Note. Rating-wise, looking at it from an outside perspective as a standalone film, I might give it somewhere between a 4 to 5.8 out of 10. So kind of average. As a avid Death Note fan, I would say it's like a 2-3 against the original material. So that's just my thoughts though. I'd love to hear your thoughts after watching it. As an avid fan, how did you feel about it? Or as someone without my bias, how did you feel about the movie? Let me know in the comments below, because I'd love to hear everybody's perspective. If you like my review, be sure to like and subscribe so I know people want to see more of this, so I can make some more in the future. Okay, it was fun guys. Thanks for watching. Roxy is a nerd. Out.